In this presentation, I'm going to introduce the Flexera One with IBM Observability. Flexera One is the latest IBM's OEM presented to the market about 2 months ago on May. I'm going to introduce the product itself, what is the Flexera One, what is the value proposition, and how the product looks like, and what is the position in the market, and how Flexera One align with the IBM Observability strategy. We will focus on the Flexera One. We will also cover the IBM Turbonomics, which is have the partner, have the integration with the Flexera One, have a use case valuable to the customers. This is the pre-sales demo. My name is Forrest Lin, and I'm a senior automation technical specialist in IBM. 5 parts of the contents: introduction for myself and IBM, and an introduction to the partnership, Flexera One, and the IBM's observability portfolio. And then this is followed by the Flexera One introduction from the 3 different perspectives, from the offering, from the architecture, and from the operation model. Then this is followed by use cases from the 3 subject areas: IT visibility, IT asset management, and cloud management. Finally, we conclude with the next steps. I'm Forrest Lin. I have 20 years history, 20 years experience in IT industry, 13 years working for IBM. Recent 3 years, I working for TD SYNNEX and rejoined IBM recently. My automation portfolio, including Instana, is application performance monitoring, Serve1, network performance monitoring, Turbonomics, application resource management, Flexera One, IT asset management. And this is not the product, IBM product, but on board as an OEM. And Watson AI Ops. Then what is IBM's value proposition? IBM has over 100 years history, and the value propositions keep changing, shifting from hardware to the software, to the service, to the enterprise solutions. And now IBM is focusing on the hybrid cloud and AI solutions with the 3 different pillars, including data, automation, and security. And IBM has the largest business consulting service, global business consulting. And IBM's approach is build up the ecosystem through the business applications. The top business applications IBM work with are Flexera One, IT asset management, ServiceNow, IT system management, Salesforce, CRM, and SAP. SAP including ERP and many other applications in it. These are just some selected examples. This diagram shows the overall portfolio I'm supporting as a technical specialist. As you can see, including the application resource management and IT asset management, Flexera, and Turbonomic get together. And this is today's focusing. Besides, I'm also supporting the Instana, Watson AI Ops, as application resource management, and also the network resource management, the Serve1, 3 different parts. Let's talk about automation a little bit. Why automation is really matters over the years, and especially matters as today. In these slides, I include 3 examples, historic examples: McDonald's, TurboTax, and Salesforce. These 3 transformation is happening over the history over the past 50 years. Starting from the 1960s, McDonald's, what is McDonald's really doing? It is automated the cooking process of the French fryer and the hamburgers, and it's scaled to the global. So that's the real value. And then that's why McDonald's conquered the world and through compete with the local restaurants. And it is a relatively simple automation. It's take about a 1 day training for the employee get the proper skills to onboard. The second example is about 40 years ago, 30 years ago, is a TurboTax. It is automated the tax filing systems and scaled to the federal and 50 states. It take about 1 week of the training. And about 10 and 15 years ago, Salesforce really disrupted the system as the first SaaS product deployed to the public cloud. And it is scaled to the global and scaled to the over the verticals. And so since then, any enterprise want to adopt CRM, it takes weeks or at most a month, and then to get their products offerings set up in the Salesforce, and it can facilitate the sales. And it is more complicated from the automation perspective, and it takes about 1 month for an employee get the proper skills to use the Salesforce and to sell. Now, what we are focusing today in the next 10 or 15 years, 10 or 20 years, I believe the industry is focused on the automation for the IT automation, which is much more complicated than the previous ones, and with the much higher value. The complicated is good, and it takes much longer time. As here, I just do some estimated, take about 1 year. You want to get the proper skills of all the area. You understand the application performance monitoring, network monitoring, and also understand the application resource and IT asset management, and have the proper cloud skills and AI ops, and with the machine learning and AI. All this takes 1 year, which is a good thing, which can bring the unrivaled value proposition to computation advantage to the enterprise itself, to the customer, and also have the unique value proposition for the employee. Much stronger value, have the career advantages. Now the second part is introduce the value proposition of the Flexera and the Turbonomic. Why these two products get together, what kind of value? Simply speaking, Flexera is focusing on the IT asset management, and the Turbonomic is focusing on the resource management. One is from the big picture perspective, let the line of business or the leadership to understand the insights of what exactly the enterprise IT looks like, and how many servers deployed, how many assets, how many software, hardware, SaaS, and cloud assets on the over the enterprise. Turbonomic, on the other hand, it shows it facilitates the automation itself. It automate by optimize the resource, and based on the needs and based on the resource availabilities. This is some marketing research based on the Gartner and the Forrester research diagrams. As you can see, Flexera is the leader of the IT asset management, and Turbonomic it is a leader, and also it has the unrivaled value proposition, very unique value proposition. Nobody else is doing this in the market, and when we combine them together, we get absolutely strong value over the market. And this is this diagram showing that potentially we can go to get together. It's get a very strong value, and help the customer to transform and automate the overall enterprise landscape. This is a new offering announcement in 3 different areas. The first one is the offering name. The offering is called a Flexera One with IBM Observability, IBM SaaS offering with the part numbers, IBM's part numbers, and backed by IBM support, service level agreements, and the IBM Passport Advantage contract. The second aspect is Flexera One is certified as alternative to IBM license management tool. And this is the only tool certified on the market. Number 3 is the use case with the Turbonomic partnership. And in this presentation, we were focusing on this. How exactly Flexera One partner with Turbonomic and to deliver the additional value to the customers. And primary, the use case is about the software license and optimization and the automation. Okay, now we are moving to the next section. We are getting a deeper understanding of the Flexera One. What is the offering looks like? What is the solution architecture? And what is the operation model? These slides tell us the offerings. 3 different areas of the offerings. IT visibility. The customer can understand the overall IT landscape through the Flexera One. IT asset management. There are many use cases can be articulated and implemented in the as asset management, license management, entitlement management, procurement management. They're all using the Flexera One the data. And the cloud management, 3 different areas. And also, Flexera One can separate to the different offerings as need. As you can see here, have the 8 different offerings. IT visibility is the offering, and IT asset management can separate to the 4 different offerings. ITAM complete, ITAM standard, with the features needed, with a different price, and ITAM SaaS, ITAM request and reclamation. And cloud management have 2 different offerings: cloud migration and modernization, cloud cost optimization. Combine everything together, and a customer can purchase the Flexera One complete. Next page is the service architecture. How the Flexera One is architectured as a SaaS solution. As you can see from this diagram, we have 6 different components here. And underneath is the shared service. And from the left to right is a discovery. It collects all the information from the end systems for the enterprise, and from the SaaS, from the enterprise, and from the cloud. And normalize the data and analyze data, orchestrate and to a proper workflow process or the use case, and extend it to the systems related to. Because the architecture is very clear. It's microservice based and loosely coupled. And this is a little bit more detail with the operational model. How exactly Flexera One looks like. And this diagram, we can read from the 2 different perspectives. One is from the major components. 1, 2, 3 are the major assets. One is enterprise assets, including the hardware and the software and the traditional enterprise software like IBM software, Oracle, Microsoft, HPE, and all in this category, including the hardware and the software. Number 2 is cloud, Azure, AWS, and the GCP cloud. Okay, and number 3 is the SaaS. And all these 3, we need to collect the information and populate it into the Flexera One here. How can do that? The way is to do the enterprise and the cloud using the beacon service, and an application, lightweighted application were deployed on the customer side and collect the information and send the information to the Flexera. And the SaaS goes through the open API using the API calls and collect the information. And in the Flexera One, there are 2 different technology components: IT asset management and IT visibility. They are synced up using the 9. 9 is the process to get the data synced up with 2, and we guarantee have the single point of the choose. And IT visibility, number 1, the functionality is get the dashboard for that, so that the customer line of business can understand their their enterprise landscape. Number two is the data to inject to the like CMDB of the ServiceNow or the BMC database, so that get the precise and the correct data for the enterprise. That's very, very important. Okay, now the next section. In the next 3 slides, we introduced like 3 different use case in the area: IT visibility, IT asset management, and cloud management. First of all is IT visibility. This diagram would like to deliver the idea, say, hey, we Flexera One get all the information from the end systems, from the SaaS, and from the cloud, and from the enterprise, and with the accurate information, and we reconcile the information through the business context data and through the Technopedia, which is the Flexera's private asset, including 3.5 million products, and which is maintained by the Flexera One. So this is to guarantee to have the single point of the truth with updated data of the assets. And then these were lead to the different kind of the use case interested to the different stakeholders: IT service management, CIO dashboard. We can understand what kind of the products is needed, and any potential, we can save the cost by eliminate some service or products never being used. And the security. And if you want to secure the enterprise, you need to understand how many assets is there, the overall landscape. Before to understand the landscape, you cannot secure the enterprise architecture, the procurement, and overall the visibility can bring the negotiation advantage to the enterprise when negotiate the enterprise license renew. Hardware and software asset management, and IT financial management, the cost savings. The second is IT asset management. It's collection of the use case and to here is entitlement, license, application, device, and the inventory device, and the assets. Overall, in this presentation, we particularly focus on the license reconcile and license management, which is directly, we have the use case directly related to the Turbonomics and for the resource management. These slides is IBM's official slides about the value proposition of the Flexera One and Turbonomics partnership, and the major use case area including the license compliance automation and the license cost automation, auditable business service inventory, and license planning. This is from the high level, from the business perspective. And the next page is from the architecture perspective, how exactly the license combination working based on between these 2 systems. As you can see this diagram from the left to right, the left is the data, the enterprise data, from the SaaS data, the cloud data, and the enterprise data, and I mean the inventory data, and send to that. And what Flexera, which is in the middle box, showing that they have the 2 value proposition, and number 1 is reconcile this data, make sure the data becomes a single point of the truth. Okay, number 2, and number 2 is the license compilation, and then the set of the rules or the policies were generated based on the license requirement and the business requirement. And for example, and a certain license constraints has been generated. For example, the certain virtual machine, we need to stick to certain host. You cannot shift the virtual machine from the one host to the other because of the license constraints. And this is one example. The second example is about a certain software license. For example, SQL Server, Microsoft SQL Server have the constraints requirements about the CPU, certain the CPU capability and CPU numbers to support the SQL Server, regardless what kind of workload it is. Okay, so these are the value proposition, and the API is being published based from the license compilation, so that Turbonomic can use. So finally, we have a brief introduction about what exactly the function of the Turbonomics. Turbonomics about the automation and about the virtual instance, say virtual machine, and virtual machine, typically the provision of the virtual machine is the balance between the performance requirement and efficiency requirement. We want meet the performance requirement. For example, the SQL Server, we want to provision the enough resource, make sure the SQL Server running okay. And we also want to make sure do not over provision the resource to save the cost. Right, that's the efficiency. So this is a balance, and Turbonomics have the patterned mathematical model to make sure the performance and efficiency is balanced and optimized. So ideally, these two is enough regarding the virtual machine, regarding the container, and to optimize the resource like memory, CPU, I/O input, and I/O ops, and also the volume, the storage, right? All these resources optimized. However, there are third parameters come to the equation, that is the user constraints, which is the policies. For example, the license policies, license compliant, and the certain requirement from the SQL Server deployment, and or the virtual machine deployment. We need to stick to the certain host. All these constraints. Without the Flexera, and Turbonomics just asks the subject matter experts to manually input these policies, and so that the policies and the performance and efficiency, three parameters together can govern the automation. The automation actions including scale, place, move, configure, and purchase the reserved items, reserved instance. And with the Flexera, everything gets automated. And Flexera is managed the license, generates the policy, and the policy is automatically injected to the Turbonomics through the API call. And the Turbonomics, based on the policy and the performance and efficiency, to generate the automation actions. So this is ideally for the customer. And so an automation journey for the future. Okay, now we have go through the products and go through all the use case. So I think this is the final one. We have the IT visibility, and we have the ITAM, and this is the third one, is cloud management. Cloud management is target to the public cloud. Management is the Azure, AWS, and Google. And typically, the enterprise, especially the large enterprise, use more than one cloud provider. They maybe have the three public cloud together. And the pain point is, the line of business want to have the unified view of all the cloud landscapes, and the Flex One provided these in a cloud transparency, and to understand are there any resource located which is not really necessary, and which could lead to the cost saving, and from the billing perspective, have the unified invoice, and from the different cloud providers, and also from the cost saving perspective, and we can have some best practice, for example, using the reserved instance to save the cost. All these kind of things, from the cloud management perspective, the use case. Okay, finally, now we understand the product itself, and we understand the use case, number of the three different use case from the Flex One, And what's the next step? Next step is bring to the customers. That's the goal. And but we need to, number one, discover the opportunity and pitch into the stakeholders and find the proper stakeholder. These slides and show us are the proper stakeholders. The stakeholders including the business value to deliver to those teams. For example, the cost saving and the risk management, the happy stakeholders, the CMDB, procurement, the FinOps, and the DevOps, and the information security. These Flexera can bring the value too, and Turbonomic can bring the value to the IT automation. And these are the major stakeholders: IT leaders, procurement leaders, FinOps leaders, and executives. And from the Turbonomic perspective, have IT operation, site reliability engineer, enterprise architecture, cloud, and CTO. So overall, there are many business leaders and IT leaders might interest in this solution. But the key here, we need to understand the customers as is, the current landscape and the current enterprise solutions. And then, so we put together the to-be solutions. Again, this is not a product sale. This is a solution sale first, but the product is natively included in the solution. And especially Flexera and the Turbonomics. This is end of the presentation.